I have never publicly endorsed a presidential candidate or a vice presidential candidate in my life over my career. So I figured let's kick this conversation off this way by me officially publicly endorsing you both to become president and vice president of our great country.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. It's the craziest thing. I have friends who support Trump. I have friends who support Biden. I have friends.
Do you really have friends who support Biden?
I do.
Come on.
No. Here's what I do. I have friends. Thank you. That's a good check because that's important. This is important context.
They support the Democratic Party.
I have friends who are loyal to the party.
Yes.
All right, folks. So today was the Daytona 500. So shout out to all of our NASCAR fans. But I was scrolling on Instagram initially, and I came across a photograph that was very, very interesting. And this was posted on Vivek Ramaswamy's social media. And you see, obviously, that he is at Daytona hanging out and taking a pic with none other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And the reason that's so interesting is because, as many of you I'm sure know, The Rock did come out in 2020 and endorse Joe Biden. And understandably, because of that, this photo has sparked a lot of controversy and heated debate among us conservatives, because you have one side that is saying, wow, this is great. Is The Rock waking up? This is so cool, right? And then on the other side, you have a lot of conservatives who are actually pissed at Vivek Ramaswamy for taking this picture, because they are saying The Rock is a liberal. The Rock is the enemy. Why are you taking quarter with him? And if you are taking this picture with him and you're calling him patriotic in the caption of it, what does that show about where you really stand? Can we even trust you, Vivek? So there's a lot of crowds here that are pissed at The Rock, really don't like The Rock, and are by proxy mad at Vivek for doing it. So what's the truth here? Is it that Vivek is compromised, or Vivek did something stupid, or however you want to see it? Or is it that The Rock is waking up politically and this is a good thing? I will tell you my read on all of this and where I think the honest truth is regarding, Vivek. On one hand, I don't think he meant anything by this, okay? I think a lot of people on the internet just have way too much spare time on their hands. They're too terminally online, and they see a political celebrity hanging out with an entertainment celebrity, and they're like, oh, let's find a reason to get mad at this. He took a picture with The Rock. Frankly, even if you don't like the guy, let's be real. If you saw him in a hallway, you probably would too, okay? It's not that big of a deal. But specifically, I think the much more interesting conversation is, where is The Rock politically? Because he did come out in 2020 and endorse Joe Biden. And I'm not here to downplay that at all whatsoever, okay? But what I will say about that, having remembered it and kind of flashing back to it now, is it's always seemed like this to me, okay? So The Rock back in the 2000s was a known Republican, okay? That was a known fact. And then the moment he sort of entered Hollywood, he never really talked about politics, okay? So he had no discussion of politics before. And then suddenly, in the middle of I think it was September 2020, he comes out and releases this video out of nowhere endorsing Biden. And then after that, he never talks about it again. Okay, so take a listen. Let's flash back to this.
As a registered independent for years now with centrist ideologies, I do feel that Vice President Biden and Senator Harris are the best choice to lead our country, and I am endorsing them to become president and vice president of our United States.
Okay, so that was the video, okay? So a lot of people now respond by saying, The Rock is a liberal, The Rock is woke, whatever. That's not how I read it. You want my read on this and what I've always thought, and I think you see what's kind of happening recently. I think what's actually going on there is The Rock, at the very least, is a closeted independent, maybe doesn't care about politics. It's a known fact that back in the day, he was a Republican, okay? He, again, never talks about politics, randomly makes this video, never talks politics again until recently. And recently, when he's been talking about politics, he talks about it much, much differently. And we'll show you that in a second. To me, the way I've always read it is that in 2020, all it was that he cucked to Hollywood. That was it, okay? He didn't care enough to endorse Biden or get involved. He didn't really feel the need to say anything, but Hollywood, gave him a call. They said, you better come out and endorse Biden or else you're going to be in trouble. Your career's going to be in trouble because, we need you. We need your influence. And also, I'm sure there's a lot of people in Hollywood because when you look at The Rock, you don't really suspect that he's a liberal, right? He's more the archetype of someone you would expect to be a Republican or a conservative. It was probably some type of purity test or loyalty test from them. It's like, you never talk about politics. You're a masculine man. You're going to be in trouble, buddy, because if you don't come out and endorse Biden, then we're going to know where you really stand and you're never going to have a job again. Okay. So to me, it's always seemed like that's what happened. It's not that he is a liberal himself or is a really a big Biden guy himself, but he just did what he had to do to keep his jobs, keep his movies. Now, with that said, I'm not here to downplay that or excuse that. It was cowardly. I lost a ton, and I mean a ton of respect for him when he did it. Not just because, he disagrees with me, but because, again, I know that that's not how The Rock really feels, or at least I suspect it. So not only is it bad in terms of his ideas or what he believes, but worst of all, it is insincere. Okay, so that is what it is. I'm not forgiving that. I'm not excusing that. I'm not encouraging any of you to forget about that either. However, what I will say is this, right? Which is, if he is willing to at least somewhat right that wrong, right? If he's at least going to stay silent about politics, or even better, say some of the things he's been saying now more recently about politics, then at the same time, I don't think that should be discouraged, right? He made a big mistake. I'm not saying to forget the mistake, but to some extent, if he's willing to right the mistake, then I don't see why it can't at least be partially forgiven. And the reason I say that, and the reason I once again say I don't think The Rock ever has been a deep down liberal is because, okay, so he endorses Biden in 2020, and then you never hear him talk about politics again until recently, a couple months ago, when he went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and you listen to him speak, and he is far from a liberal. Right? He's actually saying centrist, quote unquote, things. And so now he's doing this sort of act where he's sort of, I'm in the middle about politics. I don't really care. It's okay to support Trump if you support Trump. This is in rebellion to Hollywood. It's not a full rebellion, but you kind of see where this is going. You see what he's trying to do here. Take a listen to this.
When I was a kid, you could have a Republican friend. Like it was no big deal.
Yes.
It's no big deal. Like, Bobby likes George Bush. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? You were a supporter of Bill Clinton. He liked George Bush. Nobody cared. Nobody fuck you. You know, it wasn't like you're a Nazi. Like I'm a Nazi. I just want lower taxes.
What the fuck are you talking about?
How did I become a Nazi?
Dude, it's the craziest thing. I have friends who support Trump. I have friends who support Biden. I have friends.
Do you really have friends who support Biden?
I do.
Come on.
No. Here's what I do. I have friends. Thank you. That's a good check because that's important. This is important context.
They support the Democratic Party.
I have friends who are loyal to the party.
Yes. When I was a kid.
Right. So you see what he's trying to do now. Okay. He's straddling the fence. Okay. So in 2020, he was on the other side of the fence. He was on Hollywood. He wanted to straddle the fence, I'm sure still, but Hollywood said, you're either here or you're there, and he chose to go here, okay? Now what he's doing, you kind of see you see the act that he's playing, okay? And maybe this is how he really feels. I'm open to that. I don't think The Rock cares all that much about politics, to tell you the truth, but now he's sort of doing the thing of, well, I'm a centrist. I have friends who support Trump. I have friends who support Biden. We're all Americans at the end of the day. That is not an approved opinion in Hollywood, and we all know that. If you support Trump, you are not allowed to be friends with that person. You are not invited to that circle. And so The Rock even subtly saying something like that, trying to ride the fence and be in the middle, what he's trying to do, I guess, partially is push back a little bit against the craziness. Now, the problem with it, Dwayne Johnson, is riding the fence isn't going to work for you, right? Because you still have the mob of conservatives who are going to say, well, you're still like being a fence sitter here. And, you think we're going to forgive you for 2020? And I understand that opinion totally. But then you have the Hollywood side, and this is maybe more important to him. The people in Hollywood are going to stand there and say, buddy, you're not allowed to say that. Okay. Get in line or get out. Okay. So this is going to be the very interesting character arc to see is, where does The Rock go with this? Because don't get me wrong, you know, and the next time a movie comes around, although honestly, he hasn't been cast in a lot of movies lately, so I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for that, or maybe he's not in show business as much. I have no idea. But you know for a fact there's definitely going to be a moment where he is confronted with a moral conundrum, where Hollywood comes to him and says, endorse Biden or you're out, okay? Last time that happened, he made the wrong choice. This time, when that inevitably is going to happen, all I am saying is that I hope, I pray, I encourage The Rock to stand his ground this time. And if he does that, he would gain a lot of my respect. Because don't get me wrong, he might still apologize for all of this and go back to them and endorse Biden again. And I'm not saying that won't happen, okay? I'm not pretending like, oh, The Rock is red-pilled. But if we can push people in the right direction who have influence, even if they're not with us, at least they're not with them, right? I do think that is a good thing, okay? So that all leads us to now, right? Where you have The Rock saying stuff like that. He also said stuff like this. Take a listen to him talking about sort of the concept of America First with Joe Rogan and how it's insane. We send all this money to other countries. Gavin Newsom is more busy cleaning up California for China than Ukraine. I mean, again, take a listen to this and ask if this is a Hollywood approved opinion, okay?
Mm-hmm. They can do things entirely to make money. You know, like, you see it, and you see like the amount of money that's involved in something like Ukraine, whether or not you're pro us helping Ukraine or not. Where did we come up with all that money, and why don't we have that money to fix America? There was one point in time we talked about this where there was $6 billion they accidentally paid to Ukraine. They overpaid them $6 billion. Well, that's the exact amount of money it would take to rebuild every single house in Maui.
Exactly.
Yeah, and no discussion about that at all. Instead, the Maui people get $700, a one-time payment, which is insane. What are we? Are we a community or are we not? If we have the money to donate to some guy who is literally used to be a stand-up comedian who used to play piano with his dick, that's Zelensky. He did a thing. There's a video of him.
So notice how The Rock said exactly, right? Which, again, I'm not saying that's a bold or crazy opinion. It should be a bipartisan take. Yeah, the people in Maui who went through the wildfire should be getting more than another country, right? Because they're Americans. But again, he knows this is not a Hollywood-approved opinion, and he's pushing the line a little bit, okay? And that's the point I'm making, and maybe that's why he's hanging out with Vivek as well. But listen to this exchange.
Him playing piano with his dick. It was like one of his routines.
Wow.
He was a comedian, and he played a character on a television show.
Zelensky was a comedian?
Yes. Zelensky was a comedian. And he played a character of a regular guy who becomes the president. I forget what his job was in real life. But he becomes the president and then ran for president in real life and became president. And we're just sending this guy billions and billions and billions of dollars. And some of it is just like, where is it all going? Like, do we have an accurate account of, like, is anybody siphoning this? Like, we know that there's massive amounts of corruption all over the world when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, where's that money going?
Yeah.
This is nuts.
Yeah.
Why don't we have that money to fix inner cities? Why don't we have that money for infrastructure? Why don't we have that money for the school system?
Inner cities.
Yeah.
Homeless.
Yeah.
Yes. Schools.
Did you see what's going on in San Francisco?
Whatever.
San Francisco, Xi Jinping is going to visit, and a bunch of world leaders, but Xi Jinping particularly. And so they cleaned up all the homelessness. They took all the tents out and they put fences up everywhere, so the people can't camp out anymore. We don't even know what they did with them.
I was just going to ask, what did they do with them?
See if you can find a video of it. It's crazy. And then you got Gavin Newsom on TV who's making excuses for it. He's like, yeah, we did. Well, when people come over to visit, you clean your house up. Like, how about you fucking clean your house up?
Take care of it first.
All the time. Yes. If you can do this now, you can do this always. I'm assuming you did something ethically responsible with those people and housed them.
So you basically get the point. But again, is Joe Rogan's show the Tucker Carlson show? No, it's not. Is this take something super bold or right-wing? No, it's not. But it is something slightly out of the paradigm of the industry he exists in that, to me, does show that, again, he maybe, as compared to what he did in 2020, is perhaps he's maybe a little more fed up, right? 2020, it was Joe Biden, whatever, you didn't know exactly how he was going to be as a president. But now that he is, and now that the left has gone so crazy, maybe he's a little bit more emboldened to at least lightly call out this stuff. Again, I don't know. I don't necessarily care, but I do think that if he, at the very least, again, just stays silent about politics this time around, and, honestly, if he keeps playing the centrism thing, it's fine, okay? Because at least maybe I believe that's how he really feels, okay? Because if you look back to 2020, even his body language in that Biden endorsement video, he looked visibly uncomfortable, And he is not like all these other Hollywood stars who, say what you will about them. They are uber liberals, but they constantly talk about politics. They constantly go out there and say libtard things. You know they genuinely probably actually believe those things. Whereas The Rock, you just lied. You just cucked. But again, if this time around he's willing to be honest and, he may totally disavow this picture he took with Vivek and say, I'm sorry, I didn't know he was a terrible racist and insurrectionist. But if he doesn't, what is he trying to say? Or where is he headed? I don't know. All I know is that at the very least, if he doesn't endorse Biden this time around, to me, that's an asset, right? Because at least that's one endorsement that Biden had in 2020 that he doesn't have now. Again, how much of a difference will it make? I don't know, but it's okay. It's okay with me. Anyways, with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Do you agree with my assessment that to me, it's more that The Rock is trying to slightly push back on Hollywood, but in a safe way, but I still think he'll eventually get punished for it, right? Or do you disagree? Do you think this is proof Vivek is a George Soros plant? I mean, look at it. So wherever you stand on that, let me know. Until next time, folks, be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Alpha moves only. God bless. Have a very good day and peace.